Gurubhyo Namaha. On behalf of International Music Premier League, IMPL, Carnatica Global, and Global Arts Temple USA, I have great pleasure in welcoming you all to the Valedictory Day of Sansar Sangeet Utsav, the first virtual pan-world music festival. Today, we have with us one of our Carnatic music's global ambassador, Padma Shri Awardee, Sangita Kalanidhi, the one and only Aruna Sairam ji. As you all know, Vidushi Aruna Sairam ji is also the vice chairman of the prestigious Sangeet Natak Academy, India's premier national institution for music and dance. And she is an artist who has performed far and wide, both in India and world over. But most importantly, all her programs have received overwhelming response and sensational crowds, which have been unmanageable in most auditoriums that she has performed. Every single concert, she has also made sure that the crowd has gone on a frenzy. When she has performed, she has taken them along with her music, and they have danced literally to her tunes, I should say. Once again, let's all welcome our Carnatic icon, the one and only Vidushi Aruna Sairam ji. Pranams, welcome.
Namaste, Shashi Kiran. Namaste. How are you?
Doing wonderfully well.
Namaskaram to all the audiences viewing this program.
We would like you to, bless us all and also, give you a valedictory speech for the Sansar Sangeet Utsav.
It's a great pleasure, Shashi Kiran, to be a part of this valedictory function. Firstly, I must congratulate you and commend you. You have single-handedly over the past several years done so much to present music to audiences who have not yet been exposed to our classical music. Over the years, you have done it. You have taken music through the Bharat Sangeet Utsav, opened it up to the public and made them enjoy classical music as never before. And now you have come up with this unique idea of Sansar Sangeet Utsav. And this is amazing because at this time, when the pandemic has really curtailed our movements, you have thought of this virtual pan-world festival of world music. What have you not covered in this festival? Right from Africa to Australia to Europe, China, North America, and our very Indian artists, the top line of these artists, Grammy Award winner, musicians like George Brooks, Umayalpuram Shivaramanji, the doyen of Carnatic music, young, brilliant, masterly artists such as Abhishek Raghuram, Sai Giridhar, and Krishna. So many wonderful programs you have presented. I'm really, hats off to you, Shashi. Very happy about this.
It's all your blessings and wishes. Particularly, I thought it's very, very appropriate to have you for this valedictory function, mainly because you've been a global ambassador for our music. You performed in very, very prestigious venues, both in India and internationally. And that has been, you've been a trendsetter for our music. That's the main thing that I really wanted to say. For many people who don't know, you started as a child talent at a very, very tender age. And then you have over several decades have showcased the best of Indian music. I really want to ask you, how did you make the crowd go frenzy over your music? Wherever you performed, you had crowds where, people had to have CCTVs outside and, you've had unmanageable crowds in most centers where some of them have been had to go off or come back for another show of yours. So to change a traditional music, which was confined to a very, very niche crowd, you brought it to the mainstream and brought in so many people to listen to your music. So this change that you brought in over the last several decades is something that I would like you to share with our Rasikas globally.
Yeah, the answer could actually be a very long one, but I try to keep it as brief as possible in view of the time that we have. But to put it in a nutshell, I grew up in Bombay, two South Indian parents. So, it was a mixture of very traditional taste in Carnatic music, but my parents opened up their home to artists of all kinds, be it Hindustani, be it a folk artist, anybody. For them, art was art, music was music. There was no border that this is classical, we should listen to this is not classical, this is a little not that good. Those classifications, they never believed in. So I grew up just loving any kind of music as long as it felt good to me. And later, many, many years later, and of course, that I learned with Brindama, the musician's musician. I mean, her music was impeccable, very classical. So I had to first merge my interest in several art forms like film music, Western music, European music. I used to listen to any music that I came across. But on the other side, there was Brindama's music, which was like pure Carnatic. And when I started to become a performer, I realized that if these other musics could reach out to people, Carnatic classical also should be able to reach out to the general public. It shouldn't be the privilege of just a few to be able to enjoy this great music. So I think somewhere, I'm saying all this in hindsight. When it was happening, I didn't realize, but I think that is what prompted me to find ways and means of taking this Carnatic music that I learned and make it accessible to audiences and enjoy it even if they didn't know about it before.
Also that, what I have noticed is you've had a very unique way of packaging your concerts. You have really come up with a very, very unique way to ensure that the audience are involved in every part of your concert, be it, your start pieces, the balance of, every single piece covering a variety. It's an amazing spread for the connoisseurs, the solid musicians who are listening to your concerts, who have given you great credentials for your music and who have respected you over the years as a musician as well. Your scholarship in the music itself, which stands out. And apart from that, your very beautiful connect. One-on-one, you are able to connect with every single Rasika is what I've noticed. And it's like they all feel that you are making an entire concert just exclusively for them and their family members. So that connect has made you somebody very different in this field. That's something that I really wanted to tell the Rasikas globally, that has made your music stand out from many other performers. The other thing that I would like to tell our Rasikas is that you are the very, very first Carnatic musician to perform in Royal Albert Hall in London, which is the most prestigious venue where Carnatic musicians generally don't get to perform. And you are part of the BBC Prom over there, and you've also performed in New York's Carnegie Hall and the Paris Theatre de la Vallée, and the most important festival, global festival, the World Sacred Music Festival in Morocco. So some of these festivals very, very iconic, because usually we all, I mean, many artists get to perform in prestigious centers, both in India and abroad, which are all Carnatic pockets, you know, and they're very traditional Carnatic pockets. But to break that and to be accepted as a global musician, so that is something that has made you extra special. I would like you to share some of these experiences and also your work at the German Music Conservatory as a trainer there. Know that you've also been, you have received voice training from one of the great trainers in Germany, Ruben. So can you share some of these experiences?
Thank you, Shashi. You are very generous. As far as Royal Albert Hall goes, I know there are other musicians like instrumentalists. MS Amma had performed there before, but to perform in the BBC proms, that was special. And I had the privilege of being the first Carnatic vocalist to be part of that BBC proms, which is a 2-month-long festival that is held at the Royal Albert Hall through the months of July and August. So that was very special. What I loved about the BBC Proms concert is, you know, they had balcony seats and stall seats, and people had booked tickets and they were sitting in the far out seats. But just in front of the stage, they had a space allotted for last minute ticket purchasers who could stand and listen to the concert. So, but though they were standing, they were right next to the stage. And it was a heady experience to sing to like several hundred faces standing and enjoying your music right up front. So, you know, every venue comes up with its own way of communicating music to audiences. As far as the Fez Festival Morocco is concerned, we performed under a banyan tree. And that was amazing. Everybody was sitting around the tree. It's a world-class festival, but the beauty is that it is performed in very, very natural surroundings. And that concert had sacred music from 3 parts of the world. It had Dominic Vela presenting liturgical music from Europe. It had Nuruddin Tahiri presenting Islamic music from Morocco, and it had me presenting Sanskrit and Vedic chants and our songs, which are all spiritual and religious based. So it was a meeting of 3 different cultures. It was very special. So I've really enjoyed and been privileged to be in the company of such great musicians. I'm really thankful for that.
You also performed in the Wood Festival in Jerusalem. Right?
In Jerusalem, oh, so, that was amazing experience also. Jerusalem itself is, yeah, rare.
Yeah. No, I don't think any because generally I don't think, even as Carnatic musicians, we travel to Europe, we travel to US, many places, but to Jerusalem, you know, it's very special. And I know you've also done some work with the Gregorian chants and taking that and, you know, working with that, yes, which you presented in some of your lectures and concerts here live. Yes. So can you share that experience? Because it's equivalent to our Samaveda is what we say. Yes. In terms of the time period and also the way it's rendered.
Yeah, you know, these medieval chants and liturgical music is actually music of the, it's religious music from Europe. And they used to sing it in a very monotuned way. It was not polytuned way, like how they have chords and harmonies. Those things came into Western music much later. But before that, it was a single voice. And even if there were several voices, they were singing the same tune. So this is a period between 12th and 17th century in Europe. And each song had the same raga base, like how we have. For example, if it was in the Kalyani base, the whole song would be in Kalyani base. If it was Sindhu Bhairavi based, then the whole song would be only covering those notes. Karagar Priyana, it will have only that. So this is an early music. from Europe. And therefore, the consonance with our music was very good, very easy to combine, and it really flowed one to the other and showed to us as well as to the audience that actually, in essence, the human spirit really seeks for the same thing. It seeks for spiritual and happiness through music.
Yes, that's incredible. And you also really have been an artist who sung in the Rashtrapati Bhavan in India itself, the very prestigious place for Indian president, the House of Indian President. And apart from that, you have sung for the memorials of the Prime Ministers, Indira Gandhi and Rahul Gandhi, Rajiv Gandhi memorials. So those are additional special things that you performed in your career. So that's very, very special that I thought, many people should know. In addition to that, you've collaborated with several artists, both in India, apart from the traditional Carnatic concerts, to perform in Coke Studio, for instance, and to perform with artists like Shankar Mahadevan. They're all exceptional individual talents, and you've collaborated with Shankar Mahadevan, U. Srinivas, and also people like, Zakir Hussain, Ustad Zakir Hussain, Agam bands, many bands that you worked with, the Tair Sadam group, and artists like Ronu Mazumdarji from the north, Jai Tirth Mayundi, to name a few. So we worked with all of these artists from India. The experience would have been very different because some of the stylistic changes that they had versus you bringing in your own thing in a very integral part into showcasing that. How do you feel that collaborations work for you?
I think that, at the end of the day, all of us are different musicians. We have our own creative urges and instincts and abilities and strengths and weaknesses. But Shashi, what is important and beautiful is once two artists, just like two people, when two artists spend time, even let us say an hour or two, or maybe half a day together, having a meal, having a chat, talking to each other about maybe not everything about music, but other things about life. What happens is a vibration, a bond is created. Once that personal vibration, aura, and bond is created between two artists, the rest is a matter of detail, it just happens. You don't even have to work hard for it. It just happens, that artist will say some idea, he or she, and then I will say something, then it just flows. I remember that when I worked with Dominic Vela, he approached me and I said, let's spend time together. So I went to, he and his wife hosted me at their house. And every day we used to walk along the river and chat and come up with songs. He would hum something, I would hum something. This is how we started working. And this I have maintained with every artist. I feel that personal vibration, personal synchronization, and trust, and a kind of, embracing that artist as your own kith and kin is most important. Once that happens, everything else just flows. So I've been lucky that it has flown.
Oh, I've seen it's an enormous amount of energy, and particularly I remember one of the concerts that you performed for Bharat Sangeet Utsav, where, along with Ronu Mazumdar, it's very rare to see a Jugalbandi where you sang Sarasa Samadana as one of your pieces.
Yes.
And it was a very, very interesting combination. I've never heard any artist try a Jugalbandi with a solid composition of Tyagaraja, particularly in a ragam which is not a common between Carnatic and Hindustani. It's usual that we hear Eman, Kalyani, and all of those,
yes.
Sindhu Bhairavi and all that. But this was something very unique, and it was very, very smooth when you both performed. It seemed seamless.
Thank you.
And also, you worked with artists like Michael Rayman, Christian Ballman, Jesse Bannister, And then jazz stars like Vijay Iyer, and even dancers like Rachika Puri and so on.
Yes,
so,
Malavika Sarukai.
So, particularly the jazz and everything would have been very interesting when you would work. I would like you to say something about these collaborations.
Yeah, the collaboration with Vijay Iyer, Zakir Hussainji, and Rudresh Mahantappa, and myself. We were 4 of us. We came together to perform at the Ojai Festival, California. So when we met in New York for our first rehearsal, Vijay came up with a very good idea. He said, look, each one of us brings 2 compositions to the table. So we started with 8 compositions, 2 from each of us. And we started playing each of those compositions. Out of it, I think we managed to perform maybe all 8 or maybe 7 of them. And each one was a different genre. So the composition that Vijay brought would have a heavy orientation towards jazz. What Zakirji brought had a heavy orientation towards Punjabi Gharana music or Punjabi songs or those kind of melodies and rhythms. And then what I brought had a heavy influence of Carnatic. So, ultimately when the concert came together, it was a mix of so many different influences. It was an amazing experience. I thought that was a wonderful way. Vijay Iyer is a brilliant musician, and it's a pleasure to work with him. Zakirji, of course, I mean, what shall you say about Zakirji? He's like water, he can flow into a tiny little pool, he can flow into an ocean and completely sort of occupy it without obliterating the other musician. That's his great quality.
Wonderful. You've also taken up a lot of very innovative workshops and very special tutoring assignments, both in India and abroad. You're yourself a great voice culture expert who shared very intimately some of the voice techniques that you have imbibed very organically into our music system. So for many people who think voice culture, when they go to a Western voice trainer, the tonality and everything changes because the training system is different. But you're very organically and seamlessly brought in some of those techniques into our own singing, which you've been sharing both in social media as voice tips and also with the several workshops that you've conducted in different parts of the world, like very prestigious places, including the BBC World Routes Academy project and the Harvard workshop. You've also been invited in International Jazz Convention. So many places that you've been faculty and you've guided people, and the SRC's Sangeet Research Academy itself. So some of these experiences I would like you to share, because I know that, when you've sat down to sharing an idea, I think you're one of the finest teachers, because you teach without any inhibition of giving. So the giving back to the community when it comes, whether it's your music or anything else in the charity shows that you've done, which I'll talk a little later. But, first of all, as your teaching part, can you share a little bit?
Yeah, I would say if there are any young musicians or aspiring musicians or students in the audience that is viewing this program now, that I would like to share a little nugget of information about voice training. Would that be okay, Sashi?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah, so yeah, it's true that when I went to Germany first and I approached some voice masters to train me and coached me, and at that point I knew nothing about voice training and voice culture as a subject and a science in itself. Some of them were hesitant. They said, yours is a different kind of singing, ours is a different kind of singing. How will it work and all that? But of course, you ultimately do meet great masters. And I met my master, Mr. Rabin. And after working with him and then coming back, I was able to, he gave me so much of deep understanding of the subject that I was able to then translate those impressions into my own singing without changing the way I sing, but actually improving my output. That's what happened. So based on all these experiences, I would like to tell young musicians today that actually voice training is not a very mystified or a subject to be mystified. It's a simple thing. The voice is an instrument just like any other instrument. The only difference is this is a human instrument and it is in the human body, and therefore it is an alive, living, kicking, thinking, feeling instrument. So that is the only difference where it gets a little complicated. And with the voice, you can't see the mechanism inside your body, whereas with any other instrument, you can actually see how your fingers are moving or how the resonating chamber is working and so on. So for that reason, voice training then becomes a slightly unknown subject to many. But trust me, once you understand the basics of voice training, you understand that there is a voice box, there are resonating chambers, and there are muscles and nerves in the body that work to produce this voice. Then it's a matter of what you want. If you want a chest voice, you can produce a chest voice. If you're a Western musician, you want to produce a Western head voice, you can do that. If you want to produce a mixed voice, a mix of head and chest, you can do that. If you are a film singer and you want only a falsetto, you can produce that. So the mechanism is the same. The facets are different. And it's up to you and your intelligence and your application, how you learn to put those basic rules to work and get the desired voice timbre and the sonority that you want. So this is my little nugget of information I wanted to share in case there are young musicians who are worried about what is training.
Lots of them are there. I would also like to add something that I've noticed in the tips that you have given me and some of the others that I've seen, that you are one of the musicians who have always thought the entire body is involved while singing. So I know that you integrated some of these singing techniques even organically into the physical exercises as somebody stretches. So, that was something amazing that I've seen not many trainers in the world sharing. So that is something that I thought people should know, that, extension of a physical training, the voice muscles also gets trained in a process itself. So that is a unique methodology that you shared, which I remember very vividly. And
absolutely, which is why I said, that the voice is a living, thinking, feeling a mechanism, because it's in the human body. And therefore, just to produce this voice and the sound, you will be surprised to know that there are like hundreds of muscles and nerves all through the body that have to coordinate in order to do this work of singing and breathing. So you see, when that comes, then the whole body has to sing. And when the whole body sings, that's when, you remember those occasions when an artist would start singing and within the first few seconds, we would be in tears, we would be so moved. Now, why does that happen? That happens because that artist is not singing with just the voice or with just some parts of the body, but is singing with the whole body, with feeling, with thinking, with the muscles and the nerves of that entire organism. That's why it moves you.
Yeah, and also that, in your music itself, globally, when you present, I wanted to also share that in Indian music, there's something called the Swanubhava, which is a self-enjoyment which uplifts somebody from a state of being present physically, but yet being in an eternal space. So experiencing something very, very transcendental, like I can only imagine or compare it with the transcendental meditation itself, where you don't have to really focus on something, but it organically you are in synchronization. All the chakras are activated through the process of just listening to the concert and experiencing it. So as a performer, you experience and you share that energy, which I've noticed in your concerts, which have been very, very special. connect. That's another thing that now, apart from just the musical connect, you have brought in the elevating experience for the listener. The other thing that I would like to share at this juncture to the Rasikas is one of the endeavors that you are striving, which the world should know, that you're working on stress management and music therapy, where, you know, lots of, today you've been, I remember the conversation that you had with me where you were talking about, you know, wanting to reach out to the world, and you already been doing a lot of work with the corporates and with others, where, you know, in the stressful world that we are today, you want to bring in positive energy and you want to make them enjoy every moment of their life, along with the productivity of whatever they are already, to make it more productive, to have a very stress-free life through music, which I think you should also, you know, elucidate a little bit about that process, because we call this Nada Yoga. So we integrated that and made sure that through music, you are able to do the stress management and music. I know several people who told me and told many people, including yourself, that they have been cured of several major ailments after hearing your music. So can you share one or two of that?
Shashi, today we know that alternative therapies are very much being advocated, practiced by people, because along with a medicine that we intake, there needs to be some support and alternative ways of supporting the mind and the body so that healing happens fully. Now, when they also talk about today a lot about yoga and about mindfulness, mindful breathing, which in essence is that when you do those exercises, simple yogic exercises, you concentrate on your breath. You just concentrate on the in breath and out breath. You don't think about anything else. Now, in a nutshell, what does all this take us to? It is about being in the moment. Being, once you are in the moment and you're not having your past burdening you, or you're not having fears about the future, that in a nutshell is being in the moment. And what better way to be in the moment than to be making music? Music is the surest, quickest, and most efficacious way in which you can just be in the moment, which is a siddhi in itself, and which the greatest seers advocate. They say you should be in the moment. Confucius says, be in the moment. And here we are, musicians, each one of us is doing that. That is Nada Yoga. So Adanala, that I think is most important. And I would advocate that anybody who doesn't even know how to sing should just sing or play something instrument, because there's nothing like playing music. It makes you completely oblivious of your cares. And every moment you spend in such a kind of a mindset elongates your life, heals you, and makes you healthy.
Very, very beautiful. I know that your trust is also called Nada Yogam Trust, which
Yes.
You and your husband have instituted, and you've been doing several activities, including giving opportunities for several young musicians, and also for taking care of many families who've had cancers or other ailments, many musicians' families who have been supported, indigenous musicians and their families. And in addition to all this, I know that you performed several charity concerts for several causes, which includes, I remember a performance that you performed with special children, the autistic children, and you made them literally sing along with you. And it was an experience. I know that in Bharat Sangeet Utsav for Carnatica itself, this happened. Some of those, I think, make you an exceptionally special human being who has taken music to another heights, though I know that you don't brag about your social work at all, as you think it's just part of an extended effort of yours. But I would like you to say just a couple of sentences about that, just for our viewers across the world, how you connect to the humanity through your music.
Yeah, because See, we make music, and yes, it's true that, as we spoke earlier, an artist, when he or she performs, is immediately transporting themselves and the audience to a world of happiness and peace and tranquility. And that in itself is a service to the community. But I think we musicians should not stop there. Our music and our musical gifts should transcend beyond that. And unless you feel that empathy, that heart beating for your fellow human beings, for your society, for your community, for people who are going through certain difficult situations, unless your heart beats for them, it is not a complete life in itself. I feel that music has to be made useful in a material way also to society and community. And therefore, I think it's a responsibility of every musician to whoever lucky, which of us is lucky to be in that position to do that. And right now with COVID, we are seeing that among musicians itself, there are so many of us who are suffering because they don't have a livelihood, they are not able to perform often enough, and they don't have enough earnings. So what happens when musicians themselves, we are suffering? So, you know, we simply have to reach out as much as we can. And there lies the real greatness of music.
Excellent. I should really thank you on behalf of Sansar Sangeet Utsav team for this wonderful session and your valedictory blessings for us for our very, very first virtual World Music Festival. I'm sure, you know, all the listeners and viewers across the world, we all feel we are very, very blessed and privileged to have had this session with you. Dear Rasikas, please enjoy this beautiful session and share it with all your friends. It's available on IMPL YouTube page and Facebook page. I'm sure this is an experience that we all treasure. The one and only Aruna Sairam ji from India, a global Carnatic ambassador, an icon, and a very, very celebrated musician from India. Thank you for your time.
Wonderful. Wish you more strength to continue your good work, Sashi.